shop for the Lakeshore Apartments. And we have discussion here. You want to take it over from that to kind of explain it?
Do that.
Yes, I will do that. Mayor Drinkwine, councilors, good to see you tonight. Welcome to your workshop. You scheduled this at the last meeting to talk about Estacada Lake Apartments. And we have the Estacada Lake Apartments representatives here tonight. And so Melanie and I are recommending kind of a three-part structure to your workshop to make sure we can touch on everything that you wanted to touch on for the purpose of this meeting and get through and give you an opportunity to ask questions and hear from the Estacada Lake Apartments folks. So I think you have the workshop schedule in front of you, which is first part to have 15 minutes for Estacada Lake Apartments to present their design, our current design for the plaza and trail that's associated with their development. And then the second 15 minutes to open it up to the council for feedback on that plaza design, any questions that you may have about the status of the development or the timeline for the plaza or the project. And then we have an executive session scheduled for the last part of your meeting. And that is to the last meeting, the council, several of the councilors had questions about legal process. And so we have scheduled executive session so that I can walk you through those questions and responses. And if I hear anything that makes more sense to talk about in executive session, I might defer that. But otherwise, I wouldn't plan to probably speak during your first half hour as you're going through the presentation and the Q&A. And I think finally, I would say, just generally tonight, so there's no current process for Estacada Lake Apartments for which the council is a decision maker. And so of, the many hats that you wear and the many roles in your community, tonight is not the quasi-judicial decision-making role. You're wearing your role and your hat as the elected representatives of your community and representing your constituents and more of the policy and legislative role for discussion. I think that's it. Anything, Melanie, I missed?
Nope, I think you got it covered.
Great. Then we will go right into the Estacada Lake Apartments presentation. I guess that would be all of you. I don't know what order you're going in or.
So I always get this wrong. So we've got Zan Hamilton, Jeff Schindler. We've got Ross Leinhardt. Excuse me. Wyland is our new attorney. So, and I'm Susan Hamilton. I'm not exactly sure how this process is because when we first saw the packet, I think we saw it Thursday, it was all about past processes, which we didn't come here to talk about. So what we thought was the great thing to talk about, which everyone is so interested in, is the riverfront path. And so we brought some visuals here that will try and explain what they are. I do want to say that we are excited to be providing this for the city. It's the lake is beautiful. I've never seen water that color. And everybody who walks along the path, it's just very lovely. We came down and saw the garden club that is from Estacada was working on cleaning out all the brush out there about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And they're so excited for it all, and everybody should be. So at any rate, what we have here are two old drawings, renderings from before we were really talking only about the river path. The black and white ones down here were just completed by Kurt McLeod, your engineer, and our engineer at Multitech Engineers. And they just finished these on Friday. And so I know you can't see much here, but Councilman McElroy was looking and he can tell better about these are grading and there's two different ones there. You know, it's everything from the lighting. It shows the path of the ring that the lights show. It shows the benches. It shows the grading. But I realize it's hard for you to get that, and we're happy to answer questions or it'd be great if we could get Kurt here sometime to talk to you and he could explain. Let's see. As far as well, this is probably not I'm not going to talk about that now. The path as it goes along is one thing that Kurt pointed out on Friday was that everybody would really like it to do a loop and have the path go all the way up to Larch Street, which before it was not. It was shown going all just along the lake. And that kind of dead ends, I think, underneath the bridge with nothing or no place to go. And so the idea is to take it all the way up to Larch Street. And it is ADA compliant. There is up at the top, there's a switchback that is made so that people who are handicapped or need to help can go down this kind of a thing. It's a concrete coming down because it's a higher elevation. I don't know if somebody else wants to explain it a little bit more. Okay.
There's also lighting. There's a portion in there that shows the lighting. So at night, it won't be dark and dreary, and it won't be unsafe. And we think that's going to do a lot for the lake shore area to kind of, I think light and people will make it safer, right? And I don't think it's unsafe, but we do get every once in a while, we'll get people sleeping down in our grass area down there. So it does happen. And I think more people using it, the better for the community. And I notice when people walk along Lakeshore, they stop at beach. They don't continue. And you know, it's really pretty if you go on down. And what we're hoping to do is do what they did down farther and kind of clear out some of the trees, and we're putting benches in, we're putting dining areas for picnic tables and all that stuff that are going to be solidly in the ground and not being walked away with in the evening. So along that and the light, we think that's going to be very, very cool. So too early, I know, just to show it to you and ask for comments, but we're pretty excited about it, and hope that you like it too. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to say, this provides an opportunity for some multi-use here, because as you're coming off beach, we're doing a large plaza that has pavers. It's very nice. It'd be very nice for pedestrians and people walking their animals, and also bike riders or anyone moving on to the path going further down the lake. So it'll be a really nice transition coming off of Beach Street as you go down Lakeshore. And then there will, it'll eventually move up into a grassy area, but the path will go all the way, as Susan said, and connect. Sorry, I'm not speaking in the microphone. Will connect up to Larch. So there will be some circulation there. But, this is an area where you could bring, events, small farmers market, that kind of thing. There could be it could be used for a lot of different purposes. And there will be a really nice kind of interpretive area going down along the lake. So focusing on the lake is a centerpiece of the riverfront. Yes. And there's access to the water. They didn't have access. Yes, there's access to the water for future use. I was just gonna add those things in, so.
Yeah, I'm Ross Einhardt, and I have done, since I left the corporate world in 2010, I've been doing private equity investing and real estate investing. The project that I've done that is most similar to this is—
Can you move the mic closer, please?
Oh, yes, sure. The project that I've done that is most similar to this is the Dahlia apartment building in Canby. And one of the things that has been great about that is that adding 69 apartments into the center of the city has really revitalized the local businesses, the businesses that are down there. You've got some full-time people living there. There's grocery stores, there's restaurants, there's bars, there's a number of different things. And there's quite a few people that live in those apartments that are new retirees and they're downsizing. And some of them have decided they don't even need to have their cars because they really can access everything that they need in order to meet their needs. And it's quite a savings for them. And again, I want to stress that what we're building, this is not low income housing. We're not getting any subsidy money for it. This is all market rate, just like the apartments down in Canby are market rate. And it's been really a catalyst for the core of the town. And I think this would be even more of a catalyst because there's a few more units that we would have here. Again, it's market rate. These are young people with jobs or retired people who are downsizing and they're living on retirement, but they've still got money to spend. So it is still a great thing for the city. And I think that this could be a terrific thing in terms of just giving a shot of energy into the local businesses, the people that are already here that are running businesses. I've noticed walking around town that there's several businesses that close at 6 o'clock. Well, if you've got a group of people here that are full timers, that some of those businesses might be able to stay open later than 6 o'clock. And I think it'd be financially a boon to the community. And I really enjoy doing this kind of work. I think that infill in towns like this is just a tremendous opportunity. And there's a lot of towns that back in the day started out before there were even cars, and they were more compact. And there's quite a bit of empty parking lots that have occurred over the years. And that's a great opportunity for revitalizing the city, is to get that infill happening and having more happening downtown on a regular basis. And again, I just want to stress these are market rates apartments and they're very nice. We have 100% occupancy in Canby all the time. And we have had zero issues with the tenants that we've got to. They're all good tenants. So that's my pitch.
You know, I might add to not only retirees, that we had a study done by Johnson Economics, and they identified that what Estacada they have booming with single family homes, but they were lacking in apartments. And what they said these apartments would be, and again, they're market rate apartments, they're not subsidized, is they would go, that the clientele of it would be young couples who do not have the money or don't want to buy a house yet, retirees who are downsizing, like Ross said, don't want to buy a house, workers who would like to live in the city that they work in or near where they work, and kids who have graduated from school and would like to live in the city that they grew up in and don't want to live with mom and dad or 8 roommates to run a house, if they could even do it. So anyway, that's who Johnson Economics said these would be designed for. So yeah, and we recertified it with Johnson Economics. It's still true. So.
All right. Council. Questions?
I do. Probably I would recommend me just asking the questions, because otherwise we're going to go way past 15 minutes. I did having tenure around here really pays off, because I spent like 10 or 12 hours just catching up to everything regarding this project. And my questions really don't have anything to do with the components of the project itself. It has to do with timeline, it has to do with process, and it has to do with procedure. I'll do my best to get through it, my understanding is regarding timeline that there was a pre, and again, I'm not totally familiar with the process either. So if I make some mistake, then I apologize in advance. My understanding is that there was a pre-application meeting, maybe sometime in January. I don't know that that date really matters so much. And then there was an application at some time after that. And then the design review number one occurred on December 2nd, well, not December 2nd, October 2nd of 23. At that time, it was interesting to note there were only 2 votes in that meeting, but it was denied. And so the first question kind of that I have is, you know, if it was denied, isn't there a if there's a denial, doesn't that generate a review letter? And where is that? And then if it's denied, doesn't the applicant have to appeal before they go again, or rather present again? And was that appeal done? Because my understanding is if there is no appeal, and I think I wrote it down, it's and I think I read it somewhere else too. It's the Estacada Municipal Code 16.128.040 that if it's not appealed and then resolved, can't they like not present again for a year? And then if they didn't present again for a year, my understanding is on a different side, the code's changed. And so if they had to present again, wouldn't they have to present using the new codes, specifically the commercial on the first floor? So regardless of those questions, they did have the design review number 2 on January 22nd. It is interesting to note also that on the first design review, when watching the video, it looked like there was a lot of people that didn't know what was going on, and it seemed to generate a lot of alarm. And I think it looks like at that time, that alerted everyone, meaning council members and commissioners, of potential deficiencies in the code. And so that it looks like that instigated some of the code changes that then became effective. I'm not exactly sure when, late 23, maybe early 24, but that was just interesting to note as I was going through. And then of course, the design review number 2, a lot of discussion, that was January 22nd of 2024. And it was interesting to watch the conversation regarding, 1 year, how long the approval was good for 1 year. They settled on 9 months. The lawyer at the time was saying they'd rather have 2 years, but repeatedly mentioned that, they could do it in 1 year. The commission or panel or what have you ended up doing 9 months. And so 9 months, and then approval with conditions notification. I don't know when the clock starts. Is it at that meeting when it was approved, or is it when the official letter goes out, which is about 2 weeks or so after the fact? And then of course, 9/24, it looks like the plans and building permit application was submitted on 9/24. And so I was looking at that, and a couple of things stuck out. This is the most recent. And again, I don't know how this stuff works, but if the building plans and building permits were submitted on the 25th, it was interesting to note each building 1 through 6, has its own, I guess, set of plans. And so some of them were submitted on the 25th, some of them were submitted on the 26th, and some of them were submitted on the 30th. And I don't know that I don't know how that works. If they're all supposed to be submitted at once or not. So the beginning dates weren't the same. The end dates were all the same. 11/13 is the end dates on this graph that we got. Another interesting thing to note in looking at the record status history list that they sent out is, and I didn't deep dive on this, but it looks like, like building one, application was submitted on 9/25, and then 9 business days later, they in review and additional information requested. And go down to the next, basically where I'm going is, it looks like the city was responding 9 business days, 6 business days. And then the applicant, though, it looks like, and there's no actual connection between this paper and this date, but it looks like the applicant response would be 3 months, 2 months, 4.5 months, that sort of thing. I didn't do it for each building. I only did building 1. And so I guess a question is it possible that we shouldn't even be here? If the first design review was denied and they didn't appeal it, if there's no record of an appeal, if it wasn't appealed, then it's how did it keep going then? And I, who's responsible for that? And I don't know. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And then
Commissioner,
one last question, and then I'll stop because there's so much stuff. And then regarding the extensions, my understanding is, and there's the code somewhere, but it's one extension. They're allowed one extension for up to 1 year. But did they ever? I didn't see any request for an extension in any of the record requests, and so did that actually happen too? So did an appeal happen? Was there that first review letter? Did that go out? It looks like there's a lot of gaps in the process and the procedure that I just don't understand, and so if you stick to the timeline that is easier to document, it looks like we're outside the code or whatever you call it, just from a timeline standpoint, but I don't know where any of this other documentation is. I'll stop.
okay.
Do you want to address any of that?
Yeah, just so the land use part of it, the design review, this is like the very beginning. So their first application was denied. They weren't required to appeal it, but they did come back with a different design. That was a completely separate application. So that was the second application, and that design met the city's code and was approved.
So, but that begs, is it okay to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So that begs the question though, can you make that decision? If it's denied, then can they just, no offense, I mean, just asking can they just turn around and, well, let's do this one instead?
Yes.
And I didn't get that in the code that I read, that they could just turn around and redo it, because if they're redoing a new project, then don't the new codes come into play?
The new codes weren't in effect, or you're talking about the prohibition on ground floor residential.
So when was the second, the codes changed so that the ground floor commercial, when did that go into effect?
February 2024.
Okay.
And the
Yes.
application for the second design was submitted in December 2023.
In December? And so the question then is, if it's a new project, it's not the old one, but it's a new one. And we know the codes changed, the code changes started in October. I think
The
October.
process.
Correct.
Yeah.
But so are you saying that a new project comes in after the code is already starting to change? Why then wouldn't it be the new codes apply to this project that's going to, I don't understand the grandfather part of the, because I got the grandfather part earlier. I don't understand the grandfather part if they discarded the old plan, started a new one, but they started the new plan after the codes are already in process to change. And the only thing that stopped the codes from being in place was the lack of a meeting in between. I don't know what the schedule was like before, but it looks like the second code change was December 11th. And so December 11th of 2023, design review number 2 was 24. I didn't see anything about a second application. And so does that mean there was also a second pre-application meeting? And the reason I brought that up is because I remember, I think in the first plan review, traffic and parking and all that stuff came up a lot. That was like the number one issue that the public was talking about. And I think it was the lawyer that said during the pre-application review, they were told by Public Works they wouldn't need to do a traffic study. And so then just thinking about it, if, you know, the first one was denied, if they do another pre-application meeting, then now all of a sudden, I would think with the public input, that traffic is a big deal down there. And so why then wasn't a traffic study required at that time? Because in the second design review for this second plan, traffic and parking came up throughout also. So it's clearly an issue that the public is concerned about. And so if it's a new application, why wasn't that part of it? The traffic study part of it. And so, see what I mean though? There's so many gaps, so many things missing. It's not like a project management flow or something like that. There's pieces that are missing, and trying to fill in the pieces. I could spend another 15 hours and couldn't do it. Because that's what I was trying to do.
What's the question?
There was a lot of questions there. I wouldn't even know how to answer. There was a lot of gaps. It was back and forth quite a bit there for a while, I admit. But without a timeline in front of me of actually when these applications went in, when they went out, I couldn't tell you exactly what happened at that time. But Alan, could you add some light into this at all? And just on this last part with the traffic study and everything like that he just brought up.
Why a traffic study wasn't required? I don't recall. I'd have to go back through and see why that was not.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
As for the piece about why they weren't held to the standard, the requirement or the prohibition on ground floor residential when they submitted their application. Yes, I mean, what is it called? It's called the goalpost rule. Yeah, the goalpost rule. You want to just say a little bit?
Right. I would say, Counselor Dolezal, the application number 1 that was denied is as if it were a different development, a different property, different person. It's completely not something we're looking at. Once a new application comes in, it's a new design. The same criteria is going to be applied, and they apply it to those new facts in the new application. And so what I have in terms of the chronology is, Alan just said they submitted their application in December. The decision was, the hearing date for the decision was January 22nd. And this is all before that February code adoption that had the new standard. And so, like Alan was saying, under the goalpost rule, it's a state statute saying that, you know, so long as you get a completed application in, then the then current code standards and land use regulations apply, unless an applicant voluntarily decides to opt into the updated standards, and which they did not do in this case.
So in that timeline, from what I've been able to gather, the code change discussion started in October, and
They just don't apply the discussion to the. it's
no,
not
but there
law.
was the first vote.
Yeah, I know, but until it's written into the code, it's not applied to any applications. Even if it's the application comes in the day before that brings it into the code, it's a moot point. They have to apply the current standards that are on the books that day when the application comes in, not what's gonna be coming 2 weeks from now or 2 months from now, or even if there's already been a first vote, if it hasn't been confirmed and gone through the full procedure, then it's not applied
I
to
think it was
the
like
standards.
16 days or something
Yeah.
like that.
That's
1
right.
day,
It would be
16
the
days,
effective
5
date,
months,
like
whatever it is.
Councilor
Yeah.
McElroy
It
is
doesn't
saying.
change it.
The effective date of the new regulations is applications from that day onward would use the new standards. Applications that completed before that date
I
would use
understand.
the old standards.
I understand. Okay.
I guess the frustration is the process that's supposed to take a year is dragged on for 2.5 years. That's where the frustration is. And I think early on, have you guys been a part of the process from the start? Everyone, on your team?
Yes, and actually our first design review, we were given instructions to go to the net to get the building codes. And they hadn't included the new building code. So we made plenty of points to win to be approved. But what they didn't tell us was we needed to be 5 feet from the right of way. And we needed to have transparency, and that wasn't in the code that we had. And so it wasn't uploaded up to the internet where we were required. And if you go back and listen, Taylor admits that she didn't put it in there, and I didn't know they denied us. I thought they gave us a do-over because it wasn't us. And by the way, we spent all new plans to get over that. And then the next time there's a new code regarding main floor retail, which
No, I
And-
remember the discussion, what's Taylor's title?
Senior planner.
Senior planner. She said that at first they thought they sent you the wrong code with your application. And then during the meeting, she said, but then we figured out that that wasn't true. It was the right code. And then like 5 minutes later, she said, but then we confirmed that we sent them the wrong code. So concur with what you just said is you were dealing with, which is actually another issue for.
so which means redoing all the plans. And frankly, it's a better project because of it. I think, I think the mayor said it was just a monolith, and it didn't look like it was inclusive. And so I agree with that. And so I think we're trying to make this fix that.
So it's set to expire next month. When are you guys paying for the permits?
Before they're due.
Yeah.
And we're going to start right after.
No more extensions.
No more extensions. We're doing this.
Okay.
And actually, we're very excited, and we know exactly how long it's taken. Believe me. I mean, it's been,
What's your timeline for completion?
it'll take us, I'm going to tell you the optimistic one is going to take us 9 months to do the first building, and then every 2 weeks, the next ones will come on board. And that's assuming we don't find anything that we aren't expecting. But we have all the plans done. We have the soil surveys, and everything looks pretty good.
I'm just back to the extension, no extension paperwork or whatever. Would this have expired? Is that what you were getting at? This somewhere in this process, there would have been an expiration date that were passed. So why is this even in front of us? Is that what you were asking? I'd be interested in that.
It seems like it, right. I mean, and again, it goes back to the timeline, okay, so it sounds like they don't need to appeal because they just discarded it, which logically it makes sense since they had the wrong code to work their plans on. So I get that, or I understand that. And so then,
By the way, we did ask, and since it was the wrong plan, we were given the wrong plans. We did ask, well, wouldn't that we provided what you gave us as the plan? excuse me, as the code, wouldn't that make it worthwhile to approve? And the answer came back, no, because this is a new code and we need to enforce it now. We just didn't know about it. No one knew about it because they hadn't posted it.
Yeah, I remember that part of it. So anyways, though, we're still back to the timeline. We're still back to the extension. I remember also during the second design review, and Taylor was repeatedly saying that it was going to be going to the council. That it was really interesting. I can find my notes, but it was really interesting. It wasn't clear regarding an extension or what was the criteria for having an extension request go to the council versus who got to make that decision to go ahead and do an extension. I need time to, I've got it here somewhere, but I need time to go look that up. And so what it looks like happened is, was there even an extension request? Well, there must be if it was
An
9
extension
months.
request for the design review approval?
There must have been, because 9 months are long gone.
Yeah, so they met the conditions of approval within the 9 months specifically for that. And I should pull that up. Those conditions were, it is, okay. I don't have a paper.
So they had to submit the plans and that was what was the condition of approval.
Right.
And they submitted the plans.
Mhm.
So they met the design review conditions of approval.
Yeah, the first one. 9 months prior to the expiration of this approval, applicant shall submit to the city an application for structural building permits for all 6 proposed buildings, and they met that deadline.
It's page 14.
Where the issue came in, John, was in Excella. When a plan review letter was received and they submitted a response, whether it be incomplete or not, it automatically extended the time period for the permit. Is my understanding is that the date kept moving. Because it's
Correct.
supposed to, no, it didn't move.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It did move. Yeah.
Every
It kept
time
moving
an
every time
action
they
was
do a plan review
completed in
letter.
a cella,
Dragging
it
out.
re-triggered 180 days from that action.
We have been confirmed with this,
With the building official.
that's-
What we were approved in November. November 13th. And 6 months from that is May. So it may be on Excel it's doing that. It's not how we're
Could
operating.
you repeat that one more time, sir?
Well, I think what you're saying, Elena, is when you put a new data into the process.
Yes.
into the system, it extends it another 6 months because it's new information. They extend it 6 months. That's not the case here because we were approved in November and there's 6 months. And
November of what year?
20.
So when you submitted your plans, they would come back, say the fire sent you a review letter and it said you need to do X, Y, Z. And that fire review letter triggered another 180 days. And then you responded to that fire review letter with an update to your plans and your response triggered another 180 days. So rather than the deadline being from the first time you submitted your building permits, 180 days from then, it's 180 days from your last action.
I didn't see that anywhere. I mean, the
That-
dates look pretty solid to me. 9 months, and then you got a year with, if you get an extension.
That
And
is
so
in the
nowhere-
state building code.
Pardon me,
That's in the state building code.
but it's not in ours.
Correct.
And so does the state building code override?
Well, no, I would say it is in the building code provision of the Estacada Municipal Code as well, 180 days from the date of the application. That interpretation is made by the building official under the building code, which made the 6-month date, the date
But
of the
every-
final application with all the information being submitted, and the building official said, yes, we have everything, we're ready to issue permits, and that date was November 13th of last year.
That's not making sense to me in terms of you could theoretically then go 179 days, send in a change for light bulbs. I'm being, silly to make the point. That starts another 180-day clock. then 179 days later, you put in another thing for bike racks, and so on and so forth. And so that basically then makes that timeframe moot. It doesn't make a difference because you can actually then turn it into as long as you need versus 180 days. And so I hear what you're saying. And if it's not, you're saying it is in our code, the 180 day, and then the extension, or rather submitting a partial information then starts the clock again. Is that part in our code or is that in the state?
That's the interpretation of the building official of the state building code.
And the city has adopted state building code.
But we also have our own, right?
Yes, but
Can't supersede the state.
correct.
Right.
Well, that opens up a
So-
whole other can of worms regarding density.
Yeah. this is-
October 2nd.
I was going to just say that we're 40 minutes in, and I wanted to see if anybody else had questions, or there's some things that Laura wanted to go over with the council during our executive session, as far as, I'm not sure. What,
Right. I think in terms of Counselor Dolezal's questions, we can talk about kind of the reasons the staff made those interpretations and decisions, and the building official as well, under the state building code and the Estacada municipal code. And leave this time for any questions that you have, for any more questions for timeline from the applicant.
All right, so any more questions at the table here? Yeah.
I got one more. I was waiting to see if anyone else had any. You guys plan on getting started on dirt work this summer or?
Any other?
This might seem minuscule, but lighting, you said something about illuminating the lake shore at the night, correct? Are we gonna make sure that we're not beaming those lights into the people who are across the lake? Because I know how that is, and it's like, people go to bed at different times and lights are on, and they're like, that was never there before, that's really annoying. Just kind of one of those concepts.
Can you come to the microphone?
We're asking for the city to give us their opinions. We've submitted some ideas for lighting, but we're totally up for, what the city is interested in, would like to have. We want it to be nice. We don't want it to be glaring in the apartments or anyplace else, but we could use some suggestions. So.
Currently, the plan involves putting up, they're 4-foot bollards. So the light actually reflects down. It doesn't reflect out.
Okay.
A number of different styles. We're totally willing to talk with the city about what style they would like to see, but that is in our initial landscaping plan.
Any more questions? Jonathan? Nothing? Okay,
All my questions are just on process.
all right. So I will now go into executive session. The Estacada City Council will now meet in executive session. The executive session held pursuant to ORS 192-660, which allows the council to meet in executive session to consider information records that are exempt by law from public inspection. Representatives of the news, media, and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At that end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room. All right. Okay. Is there any media in the room? No. Everybody's out. Wait. Lock the doors. Gonna come out of executive session and back into city council. And I'll wait to see if there's anybody still standing. No? Then I will adjourn the city council workshop. Thank you.
Hey, you guys.